All right, everyone. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. Today, we are going to talk about My365 and working remotely. Of course, we find ourselves in some very unusual times, and it seems that those unusual times are going to continue to be the case. Just a couple of housekeeping things. There is a Q&A section available, and my colleague, Rave Johnson, is going to be moderating the Q&A. So feel free to post some questions and answers in there that you would like answered. Of course, this is open to the public, so we're going to have people from all different verticals in here, all different types of work, but hopefully through this demo, you see something that can be of value to your organization. And the point of this is to really illustrate not only how to work remotely effectively, but thinking about when we do go back to normal, and I'm using air quotes right now, when we go back to normal, how do we reintegrate into our office environment? And how do we pick a solution that not only supports us remotely, but can also get us back to work when that time comes? And this, we believe, is one of the most effective ways to do that. A little bit about me. My name is Dave Swenson. I'm with NetLogic Computer Consulting. We support managed service providers and IT organizations across the United States delivering Microsoft solutions, whether that be Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Office, Azure Active Directory, all sorts of things. And what we're going to do is show you the solution in depth on what we deploy for people, how they're using it, and again, hopefully you see something of how it can be adapted to your organization. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Rave Johnson. Rave, are you there?
I'm here.
Rave, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so glad to be here today. I will be your moderator, so if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead into the Q&A and type in your question, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. A little bit about myself. I joined NetLogic a little bit ago. Very happy to be on board here, coming from the corporate environment, coming from Wayfair, coming from consulting, and I'm now glad to be a part of the whole MSP world, and thank you all for welcoming me into it.
Yes, thank you, Rave. And trust me, we were all happy to pull him over from Wayfair. We all got a lot of discounts on furniture while he was transitioning. So thank you, Rave, for that. All right, now moving on to the demo. Let me go ahead and stop sharing what I'm sharing now. And I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop with you guys. Just give me just a moment to pull that up here. All right, so you should be seeing my desktop. So what you're looking at right now is a standard Windows 10 desktop. Now, keep in mind, this is not unique to Windows machines. So the solution that we're going to show you today is going to be available for not only Windows, but also Mac OS, iOS, and Android devices. So really the idea behind this is you'll be able to work from pretty much any device you choose to pick up and start working from that day. And easily reintegrate into your office environment when, again, and I'm using the air quotes here, that sense of normalcy returns to us and we can go back to our workplaces. So let's start with a couple of things. This looks like a traditional Windows desktop, but there's actually a few key things happening here. I am at home. This is my home computer. However, I am not connected to any fancy VPN networks or complex configurations or any type of networking software that I need to install. I'm simply joined to my Azure Active Directory. So what is Azure Active Directory? For those of you that have used a type of Windows server in the past or some kind of corporate directory, as in logging into your computers with your corporate identities, it's very much like this, except your sign-in now becomes your Office 365 email and password. And if you don't have Office 365, don't worry, we can still work with that. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. When I click on my Start menu here, again, looks very similar, not much new happening here. However, when I go into manage my account settings, a window is going to come up and it's going to show me that my user ID is actually my email address. So your email or your Microsoft 365 ID, if you don't use Office 365 for email, becomes your login. So it keeps you to have one password, one username across every single device you would log into, be that your Windows device, your Mac device, your iOS device, or your Android device. Again, does not matter what device you choose to work from. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at my work or school settings. You'll see that I am connected to some kind of domain here, but it's not a traditional on-prem domain, as they used to say. We don't have any server infrastructure at NetLogic. We don't have any domain at NetLogic on site. All of it is being managed in the cloud through our Microsoft 365 solution. So what you're seeing here is I'm actually connected to what's called Azure AD, or Azure Active Directory. previously used to just be called Active Directory, and you would need to install servers and equipment and infrastructure to make all that work. And then, of course, some complex network stuff. None of that is required. And for those of you that are IT administrators on here, I'll go ahead and just show you a little bit more. If I click into information here, you can see that all of my group policy, all my things are being provisioned on my device. I'm getting all kinds of policy coming from my Active Directory. So for those of you that are concerned with compliance or maybe have some regulatory needs to meet, be that HIPAA, GDPR, ITAR, whatever you're compliant to, PCI, can all be accomplished in this environment and can be accomplished on any network, on any device, anywhere, anytime. And that's really the whole point of this year. So with that said, let's jump into my workday. And I'm going to sort of do this as a day in the life type of thing. So when I'm on my desktop, I'm going to go ahead and launch my browser. I'm going to pull this up. I happen to be using the new Microsoft Edge browser. If you haven't used it yet, definitely give it a try. It's totally built on the Chrome language now and supports everything Chrome does while giving you the enhanced security of a Microsoft environment. So for those, again, those IT admins on the call, you remember the good old days when Internet Explorer was king, and that was the browser you had to maintain your entire IT security. Now you have the best of both worlds. The security of a traditional Microsoft browser with the compatibility and extensibility of a Google Chrome browser. So this is what we're in right now. When I launch my browser, I'm presented with my landing page. And you saw this advertised in the actual registration for this call, My365 landing. Well, what is that? And to make it down into its most basic terms, a landing site is your intranet. It's your company's or organization's intranet service. It's a private space for you to accomplish your work. And this happens to be built on the modern version of SharePoint Online, which is included with your Microsoft 365 subscription. So not only do you get the familiar Office applications like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, you also get things like SharePoint, Power Automate, and a whole bunch of other stuff that we'll go into. But getting back to this, when I open up my browser, I'm greeted with my landing site. And on my landing site, the idea is that all of your team members, all the people in your organization are a member of this site. So this becomes your all staff or your all users group that you used to probably just have an email group called all staff. We call it landing. And it's the same across every device you would choose to work from. When you open up your landing, you immediately get some key things right at the top. And again, if this is a layout you're not comfortable with, don't worry about it. When you work with your My365 partner or us or whoever you choose to implement this with, these pages can be totally customized to fit the needs of your organization. And they don't only include things by Microsoft. For example, your email and calendar. Let's say you were an organization that hasn't switched to 365 yet. Let's say you were using Gmail. Not a problem. You could put Gmail integration right in here. Teams, getting into Microsoft Teams, and we'll talk about that in a moment because that's an animal in itself. You know, let's say you're doing video conferencing or live events like we're holding right now, or you're a medical organization, you're doing one-on-one patient appointments. All that can be accomplished in here. And then, of course, task management. Now, all of your employees, your team members, we're all over the place. We're at our homes, we're at our places of work, wherever that may be. How do we aggregate all of our tasks in one place? And that's done with tasks. And if I were to click on tasks right here, that brings me to one dashboard where I can see all the things I need to accomplish throughout my entire organization or guest organizations that I'm a part of in one simple view. So I can either open that task up right here. I can add notes about that task. So this becomes a total project management solution. So for those of you that have used things like Trello, Asana, or any of those types of tools, this is that kind of integration, but built directly into your landing site. Now, because this is extremely flexible, I can go in here and view it as a chart. So I can see all my tasks that I have to complete in a chart view. I can also see them in a scheduled view. So if I want to take a look at the tasks or outstanding items I have, I get multiple ways to do that. And again, the experience is consistent across every single device that I would use because those apps and services are available on every single service that you use. Over on the left-hand side, I won't go into email and calendar too much because we all know what that is. Right now in this demo, we're using Outlook because our system, our mail system is in 365. But again, if you're using some other mail system, you could easily integrate that right into here. We encourage you to move to 365 for your emails because that's going to bring you a lot more security, protections, and audit information for maybe compliance or regulatory information that your organization may be held accountable to, depending on what vertical you're in. But when it comes to modern work and off your landing site, we believe we found a formula here that works pretty well. The three key pillars we found to managing a modern workplace are the ability to organize your tasks, automate certain aspects of your workflow, and then analyze those results. So we talked about showing you different applications and services on here. So with Team Planner, right from here, I can go in and instantly create a task for my team. Now, of course, this is a demo planner. It's pretty empty. There's not much going on in here right now, but you can see there is a task that I assigned here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new task, and I'm going to say contact the org. Let's just say that's the title of the task. Contact the organization. Let's say I need that organization contacted by Monday the 13th, and I need Rafe, who's on this call with me, to make that contact happen. I'm going to add the task, and then I'm going to open it up so I can give Rafe some more information. Let's say contact Shannon at TechCorp, and her email is shannon@corp.net. I can even checklist the item. Let's say she's asked for a demo. She needs a quote. Oops, if I could type today. And then return info here. So when Rafe opens this, he'll be able to track his progress. He'll be able to say whether that's in progress, completed. He can fill in the date that he started the task. And we can even share information here, whether that's a link to an external resource, maybe it's a document we've stored in Google Drive or Dropbox, or we can integrate directly with SharePoint and OneDrive, which is built directly into here. So very easy to do project planning and project management, all from within this system here. And remember, because it's Office 365, it saves as you type. There is no save button, there is no export button, anything like that you need to do. And now it's accessible to all of Rafe's devices on anything he's signed into. He also gets an email alerting him that there's a new task assigned to him. Again, I can view the entire plan as a chart, so I can see what's going on here, who needs their tasks done. And because this is my company-wide landing site that everybody has access to, we can all participate in these plans. So Rafe could go in and say, ooh, you know what? I'm not really sure how to handle this, or I haven't talked to this person, Shannon, before that he's referring to. So he can choose to bring in a friend. And let's say he wants to bring in Nick to help him out because Nick's been involved with Shannon before, he knows who she is, and they've talked to each other. And oh, look, someone has added a document directly to it. Awesome. So then Nick and Rafe can collaborate on this task. He's already responded to me right here. Thanks for the information, Dave. I'll follow up, and we can have a self-contained conversation about that. Really easy way, guys, to keep all of your stuff integrated, again, from one portal, one single pane of glass, anytime. Across the top, you also have team files. So think of team files as your old network drives, your O drives, your P drives, your Q drives, your Z drives, all those types of things, or even an external source that you used to have. Maybe you had stuff stored in Dropbox or Google Drive. All of that can be brought in here and aggregated so that it not only inherits your organization's policies, again, going back to maybe you have to be compliant to HIPAA or GDPR or something like that. We can aggregate all of those materials here for you so that they're accessible right inside this landing page. So let's go into your team files and hit open. So here's the online view. Some of you may have seen this before. This is just SharePoint Online. And here's some documents that we've shared as a team. Now, I'm using the word team because we're going to go into teams in a moment, but of course that can be referred to as departments as well. So right here, I can see all these different documents that are available. This is great, but what if I want to work in a more, and I'm using air quotes again, legacy fashion? What if I want to use my File Explorer or my Finder on my Mac to access these files? How do I sync these things down? Well, a couple of ways. You could manually sync this down to your computer so it becomes available inside your File Explorer or your Finder on a Mac. So if I open up my File Explorer here and go to the My365 landing folder, which again, this is where you used to find your O drive, P drive, Z drive, Q drive, all those types of things. Now they're all stored in SharePoint. So as soon as I log into my device, anywhere, anytime, these drives can be set to automatically map for me. So I don't have to think about coming in here and manually syncing. As soon as I log in, the drives or the appropriate content is distributed to me by my domain automatically. Again, on any network, anywhere, anytime. Now, this is a more traditional interface that we're looking at now, but you can see it matches exactly with what's happening inside my online version. So whatever happens here automatically happens here. So you never have to worry about file duplication. You don't have to worry about, oh, do I have to save a copy and email it out? It's not a problem. Now, because my network drives are saved in SharePoint, that unlocks some really cool possibilities for me here. So let's say I needed to share something with somebody within outside of my organization. Sure, not a problem. I can do that on the document level. So let's say I need to send someone these login directions. Well, rather than going to email, attaching, and wondering if I have set the correct security policies, all I need to do is just right-click on the document, click Share, and a little window pops up. And this window is actually the same experience across every single device you might choose to use. So you're going to get the same interface on your PC that you would on your Mac, that you would on your iPhone or iPad, and that you would on your Android device. So you only have to learn it once, which is really helpful. I've seen a lot of tools out there where they have a mobile version and then a PC version, and then you have to worry about if your employees are learning the right tools, because when you're sharing data, that should be a pretty seamless experience because it's your business data. And of course, we all know that if the wrong data gets into the wrong hands, that can be very damaging for your organization. So we want to make sure that's consistent and pretty seamless. So right off the bat, it asks you, okay, how do you want to share this? We can click on this here and decide what kind of permissions we're giving to people. Now, at NetLogic, we've gotten rid of this top option, which you can do because of the nature of our business and the types of data we store for people, be that usernames and passwords, encryption information. We pretty much run your IT life for tons of organizations around the country. So it would be very detrimental if somebody were to accidentally share an anonymous link on a file. So we got rid of that. Now, we can enable it for your organization if you want anonymous link sharing, but it's something that we tend to steer away from with the level of data that we protect. So the three options I have available to me when I share is people within my company, people with existing access. So let's say somebody just forgot the link to that document. They can simply click right here, hit apply, and then you can copy that link or send them an email. And this will just regenerate them a link that they can open it up on any device, anywhere, anytime. And it will inherit whatever access they've already had to that document or that folder. But let's say we're going to send it to someone externally. So I'm going to select specific people. I can choose whether or not I want to allow them to edit that folder or file, or I can just let them view. When I hit apply, all I need to do here is enter email addresses. So I can let me enter a Gmail address here. So dswenson19@gmail.com. If you guys want to spam me, feel free to go ahead. That's where all my spam mail goes anyways. Then of course you could add the body to your message and hit send. Alternatively, if you don't want to use this interface, you could just copy a link and email it to this person because you're setting your permissions right here. So automatically, this person will get a link and they'll be able to open up whatever folder or file I'm working with right in Office Online, even if they don't have a Microsoft license. They do not need to be a Microsoft customer in order to participate in this content with you, which is very nice. So you can really use this for just about anything. Now let's take a look at a document. Let's do the same thing and share a Word document. And for those of you that are wondering, if you do have a lot of your documents in something like a Google Drive or a Dropbox right now, we can easily lift and shift those right over to this environment, maintaining permissions, maintaining structure, and it will even do things so far as to convert Google Docs into Word docs for you without losing any of its metadata or critical data or modified dates or anything like that. So let's go into our settings now on a document. So not only can I choose to allow editing, but I can also say, nope, they can only view it. And you know what? Don't even let them download it. So this is really helpful if you don't want data leaving your organization. So if you just want to be able to share and have people view it within their browser without ever being able to download the document or send it to somebody else, that's what you would choose. And then again, just like before, it's telling you people who have this link will be a view access only. And then we see that they won't be able to download it because that's indicated right here with this symbol. And of course, if you hover over the symbol, it gives you a tooltip. So once you put an email address in, just like before, those permissions go out to those users. So very easy to share that. And just to illustrate how consistent the experience is, let's do that same thing in the online version now. If I hit share, look, the exact same experience comes up. Nothing new, nothing different. I only had to learn it once, which is very, very helpful. All right, Rafe, any questions that we should pause on?
No questions that have come in as of yet. We must have a quiet group today.
Not a problem. After the week we've had, we could use a quiet group. No, I'm just kidding, guys. If you have questions, please feel free to speak up and ask, or chat up and ask. All right. So back to our landing site. We talked about file sharing and document sharing. Let's talk about some limitations. All right. So here we go. We're going to go back to our good old File Explorer view. And for our Mac friends on here, keep in mind this could also be your Finder. We're just on a PC, so we're showing you File Explorer. Chromebook users. If you're using a Chromebook, all of this is still accessible through the online version. So if you're a Google organization, or if you use Chrome, or if I have any educators on the line that have Chromebooks, I know that's very popular in your systems, this is all accessible to them as well, not just Mac and PC. So if you look here, I've got two different types of drives here. I've got my NetLogic computer drives. Of course, this would be the name of your company if you were using it on your system. And these, like I explained in the past, are your O drives, P drives, Q drives, Z drives, all that kind of stuff. But I also have this OneDrive right here for NetLogic. So what's the difference? Well, this one with the office building, these are your corporate drives, all right? The ones that are shared amongst your staff. Your OneDrive is your own private personal space that your work files stay in unless you choose to share them. So this becomes where your desktop, your documents, your pictures, and so on are all stored. So things like that will all follow you across every single device that you would use. So automatically, when you sign into a device, it's going to automatically back up things like your desktop, documents, and pictures. And let me illustrate that by showing you here. So I'm an admin on my machine, so I have more permissions here than normal users would. But if you look, desktop, documents, and pictures are automatically backed up and synced across every single device that I would sign into. So I, as an administrator, I can stop that backup if I wanted to, but for my users, they would not have this option. Their stuff always stays synced to the cloud, which is protected by their multi-factor authentication or whatever authentication services we end up setting up for you based on whatever your company's held compliant to. So now what that means is any device that I sign into, whether that's my phone, my tablet, my computer, all of my data roams with me. Even if I get something like ransomware, let's say, the dreaded ransomware, oh my goodness, it doesn't matter. Call your IT provider, which of course is going to be your My365 partner, and they say no problem. They reset your machine, and as soon as they reset it in about 25 minutes, your machine's right back to where you left it because all of your stuff is stored automatically in the Microsoft ecosystem. You're not really losing anything. So let's go back to our landing site here. If we keep moving down, we see we have access to all those things that we talked about. We've got our email and calendar, we've got our work applications. So if we look here, all my work apps. Now these are just some examples. These are just some things that people said, hey, we use this, we use this, we use this. But imagine these being your own line of business applications. Maybe you use Salesforce, maybe you use a marketing system, maybe you use, I don't know, any system. They can all be linked and put right into here. So if I use Salesforce, I can click into that and be taken right over. Now, this could be configured with single sign-in too. So if you want your My365 partner to configure this in a way where people automatically sign into whatever app you're linking, sure, not a problem. That can be done. But as you can see, it integrates perfectly with third-party solutions just as much as it does with Microsoft solutions. So there's really no limit to what you can and cannot put on here. Let's move now into shared calendars, the dreaded conversation of public calendars, which if any IT guys on the line, you know that this has been a challenge in IT for a long time. But now that we're using modern software like Microsoft Teams, we can actually have our calendar displayed right on our landing site. So imagine this as an employee in your organization who's coming in, and let's say you have a weekly meeting, a weekly touchdown meeting where you talk about the company's progress, maybe it's your department's progress, you need to get everybody on to see how they're doing, or talk about goals, metrics, whatever it may be. All you have to do is come on here, click on the meeting so I can see that we have one coming up every single week. I can click on that. It loads the details of the meeting, the body that I put into it, the date and time. I can also add it to my own calendar right from here if I want. Now, from an organizational perspective, this can be done automatically. So anytime you schedule a group meeting, it automatically gets added to everyone's calendar that's a member of that group. But sometimes you like to give people that flexibility too. And then if they scroll down, they can just jump right into the meeting from their computer or their mobile phone if they have the Teams app, or if they just want to use the web. They can also dial in as well. If you wanted that as an option, that is available to tenants where you can have conference call dialing in. Let's say they have poor network quality or no microphone on their computer, they can just do a dial in. So that's all available to you here. Now, if we're going to move down, there's some more features. Let's talk about document discovery. How do we find documents? Okay, Dave, you told us, our documents are all going to be in the cloud and we're going to have all these drives. That's great. But how do I manage my own stuff? Well, here we go. Right on your landing site, there's a section here called My Recent Documents. And what this is doing is it's looking across your entire organization, every single share you could possibly have. Of course, they're stored in the whole SharePoint system with different permissions and different structures and different folders and all that. But it's showing me documents that I've worked on. So if I needed to get back into a document, I don't have to know where it is, when I did it, what file it's in, who it's shared with. All I need is to have access to it, which is controlled by either the system or whoever shared it with me. Of course, if I created the document, then I have access to it. And then I can just click right in here. All right, I'm going to open up this document directly from my web browser and start working in it. You don't even need to install any software on your computer to use the full power of Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote. The web versions are pretty much on parity with the desktop versions now. But if you decided you want to work inside the desktop app on this document, sure, not a problem. Just hit open in desktop app. And what it's going to do is it's going to contact PowerPoint on your computer. That opened up on my other monitor here, but you can see it. I am now working right inside PowerPoint desktop, just like I always have. And it's connected to the cloud copy. So it's auto-saving as I make changes, but very flexible, very easy to work with. And I really didn't have to think too much about what I just did. So let's go back to our landing page. All right. And let's come down to the last piece here in our main landing screen. And then we'll go into some of the apps that are included by default with a My365 deployment to make your life a little bit easier. Stream. Stream is a huge focus inside of 365. Those of you that have used any 365 services in the past, you may have heard of 365 Video. It has been replaced with something called Stream. And Stream is really, really flexible. Now, all of the meetings, whether they be virtual or anything like that that you hold within Teams, and we're going to go into that in a second, can all be recorded. Now, live events like we're having right now are automatically recorded, so you as attendees can go back and rewatch everything that I'm saying. You can search through it and share with your colleagues. But team meetings can also be recorded, more private meetings, maybe for medical companies, that's a patient meeting, maybe for school systems, that's a classroom, maybe for other businesses, that's a meeting between you and an investor, anything, it doesn't matter. Or they could just be the weekly meetings that we talked about. So once we've had these weekly meetings right here, after the meeting is done, we have our recordings for us right at the bottom, past meetings. And if I were to tell my employee, let's say I say to Rave, one of my team members, hey, Rave, I need you to go and review that meeting from April 3rd, and I need you to find the, look at the stuff we talked about SharePoint. Well, that's great. But this is an hour-long meeting, and to expect Rave to sit there and watch an entire video just to find some key content within it is really not that great of a solution. So instead, what he can do is open this up right here, and I'm going to pause it. And then when he starts playing the video, yes, you could watch the entire thing if you wanted to, but why would you do that? This is the cloud. It's powered by artificial intelligence. He's just going to hit the magnifying glass right here, and he's going to search the word SharePoint. And then anytime the word SharePoint was spoken by any participants, whether they were guests, whether they were presenters, that's going to pull up right here with those timestamps. So he can look and see the side, the actual phrase that was spoken. So he's like, oh, okay, I want to know about SharePoint drives. He's going to click on that, and then the meeting automatically advances to that timestamp, so he can just review that specific area. It turns your whole video experience, it's turning videos into living documents for you. So it's very easy to search, transcript, and use those as modern documents almost. And that's available automatically, included in your Microsoft 365 solution. This is the wrapper around it to make it easily accessible. Rafe, any questions that we should pause on for a moment?
Yeah, we've actually had a few come in here recently. So one says, Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint looks great, but what is the difference between OneDrive, SharePoint, and Dropbox, and what are the biggest differences between the two?
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, loaded question. I like that. So if I go back to this here, let's first cover, I'll just revisit this point. So SharePoint drives, think of those as your old network drives, O drives, P drives, Q drives, Z drives. Those are the shared drives you used to keep on a server inside your organization. OneDrive is your personal space. That's where your desktop, documents, pictures, all that lives. For SharePoint drives, the team gets 25 terabytes by default to work with. So that's a lot of space. With OneDrive, everybody gets 1 terabyte by default to work with. Those could be expanded if you need to. But most of the time, those size limits are good for most organizations. For those organizations that store design content, CAD files, all that, that's also available too. Now, when it comes to comparing it to third-party solutions like Dropbox, Google Drive, or something like that, it really gets into more of a conversation around security and management. So I have a rule of thumb whenever I implement a system, and this is more to protect not only the organization, but the IT provider that's working with you too, right? The more systems and the more complex systems you introduce, whether that be Dropbox, Google Drive, let's say you're using, you've got Zoom in your organization, you've got Teams, you've got Skype, you've got GoToMeeting, you've got Google Drive, Dropbox. That's all great, but that's introducing a lot more complexity and a lot more money for you to spend as an organization. Not only are you paying a subscription for all those things, you're also introducing a lot more work for IT to manage those things too. So your organization is apt to be less secure than having everything rolled into one platform. And that's really what the whole point of this is this can be your end all be all for pretty much anything you need to accomplish in the business. What I'm showing you right now is really just scratching the surface of what the system is capable with, but I thought this would be good for an introductory demo. Dropbox and other solutions, by default, and I'm not going to speak to any brand particularly, but what we found in working with other solutions is that you run into issues with compliance, be that HIPAA, GDPR, ITAR. Microsoft is in the business of enterprise support, and that's where they were founded, that's where they were born, that's what their core passion is. And they're all about making sure that they're compliant with every organization. And if you look at the way the organization's changed and evolved over the last 5 years, they're really winning the game in terms of what people are dubbing, and I'm using my air quotes again, the cloud wars. And it's not just because they have a huge marketing budget, it's because they're making a product that's completely universal and flexible for just about any organization. Rafe, any other questions before I move on?
Yeah, we have another question specifically about sharing files within SharePoint, within OneDrive. And if you were to send information to clients that had sensitive information on it, like social security numbers, bank accounts, PII, is this considered secure? And how can you securely send documents with this type of personal information?
Sure. Great questions. So let's move on then. Let's jump into our security conversation. And that's going to answer that question for you. So I'm going to pull up, I'm just going to make a blank email message right here. And I'm just going to use Outlook to do this. But again, you could use Outlook on the web if you wanted to. And this is another benefit of bringing your email service and your email domain into 365. So what I'm talking about right now is available to you as an organization if you either use 365 already for your email, or if you're planning on moving to 365. So Gmail users, I'm sorry, but you don't get this kind of protection. With that said, let's take a look at how it works. So here, I'm going to send an email, and let's say I'm going to send it to Peter, I'm going to send it to Donna, I'm going to send it to Rafe, all in here, and I'm going to say this is a test. And let's just type some content in here, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter what we're putting in. So up at the top, this looks very familiar to those of you that have seen Outlook or another email app before. You've got your ribbon, you've got your control bar. What is new and what you might not have seen before is this bar right up here that has these 3 labels on it. And this is referred to as Azure Information Protection. What is this doing? So this can work a couple of different ways. It can be manual for the users to have to select, or it could be automatic. So if you had documents or emails that you're writing, and those documents or emails contain sensitive information, then the artificial intelligence aspect of the system is going to pick up on that stuff and can auto-label these communications. This applies not only to emails, but also documents and files that you work with in the organization. So I'm going to demo it first in email, then we're going to do it in a document. So we have 3 labels by default, and these are just some things that we roll out. Again, These labels are completely customizable. The behavior of them is totally customizable to fit the needs of your organization. These are just the 3 that we start with. So we have the first label called general, okay? So if I go to send this message, it's going to say, whoa, wait a minute, you need to pick a label, okay? The first label is called general. And this is, using for internal and external. And basically, this is just a regular old email, nothing sensitive, nothing required, nothing that would be considered compliant. Then we have another label, internal only. So let's say, and an example that I had seen is, let's say you're doing a reply all situation and there's about 50 different people on that email chain, but you send something that has sensitive information in it and forgot that you hit reply all. It's happened. I've seen it happen before. If you were to select this internal only label, it doesn't matter. Only people that share your domain name. So for example, Donna, who's in this email chain right up here, she wouldn't be able to read the email or any content that I attach to it because she doesn't have a NetLogic email address. Same rules would apply for your company. Then we have our external confidential email. This is to be used when you're communicating with customers, clients, partners, whatever that you might be sending that might have sensitive information to it that's governed by some kind of compliance. So when you click on this, it's going to automatically apply that label. It's going to hit send. And then those people will get a PIN code to actually be able to access that communication with. So let me go ahead and pull that up again. So if I click external confidential, anyone that I send this email to is not going to be able to forward it, and they're going to have to enter a PIN code if they're outside my organization to be able to open it up. That PIN is going to be sent to them automatically by Azure. So it's going to be totally handled by you. You don't have to do a thing. All you have to do is select the label. Now, these labels are all audited and tracked for you. So as an organization, you can actually go in, whether it's your IT department or maybe you're working in security in your company, this all gets reported with the user ID, with timestamps, even right down to the IP addresses that were used or where this work was done. So all of it's tracked and it's completely compliant by using these types of labels here. And again, they can be customized. But let's say somebody comes in here and says, oh, I'm going to get tricky and I'm going to change this to general so I can send this email to anybody. Well, it comes up and says, whoa, hold on there, soldier. What's going on? And here, it actually asks you to explain why you're doing this. So you can either say the previous label no longer applies, or you can write your own explanation. Either way, it logs it, it tracks it, and it saves it for you to review. And then you get basically told, hey, Dave Swenson, on this date at this time made this change to this email and here's why he did it. And then you could go to that person and say, hey, what's going on? Why did this happen? If it were to become an issue. But all of that gets tracked. And again, remember, I'm not on any specific network. I don't have any domains or complex configurations set up. It's all being driven by my My365 configuration, which is great. Now, this also applies to documents. So for those of you that were asking about sharing sensitive documentation, let's go in and open up good old Word, our Word desktop app. So it's going to look, again, very familiar to you for those of you that use Word. But look, that bar persists across all my applications. So just as I could with email, I could also classify these documents. So I could say internal only. And when I do that, if I go down at the bottom, I get a little footer down here that tells me this is an internal only document. And only people that have an email address in my company, in my domain, or that are a member of my company, not a guest, can access the content within this file. This labeling applies to every Microsoft application and a lot of Adobe applications now too. So this is being integrated into other apps as well. So let's say I wanted to do an external one and I was writing a sensitive document for someone outside the organization. When I click that, it comes up with a dialog box and it says, okay, what kind of permissions do you want to issue when you send this person these documents? Well, let's say I want them to be able to review the document, view and edit, but they shouldn't be able to copy it or print it. So I'm going to choose reviewer, and it explains all that for you right here. Very rarely would you use a co-owner for this type of thing, because this gives them total permissions to it. But you can hit view and edit, and then right here, any email you enter into the box, again, so I can put in any email I want. I could put in multiple emails with separating with commas or semicolons, just like you could in a regular email. And here you could even set an expiration date on this document. So you can, leave it blank to say they can have access indefinitely with this, or you could say, you know what, this person, Dave at Gmail, can only access it until next Tuesday, and then hit apply. Now, when I go ahead and share this with that individual, I can just attach it to a Word, I can send it as a PDF. All of those protections will apply. So very easy to manage. You could also open this up and send it as an email. Now let's go test. Let's save this. I'm just going to put it on my desktop, which if you know me well, you know that I hate when people save things to their desktop, but we're going to do it for this demo. And I'm going to save. All right, so I've got my test document right there. It's classified as external confidential. So now when I go into my email that I had open, let's close this and make a new one. I'm going to go ahead and create an email. I don't even have to think about the type of document that I'm inserting. So if I go over here and insert that test document, it will automatically inherit that permission when I send it. So when I go ahead and send that file, it will automatically inherit that external confidential label so that it does all my labeling for me. So I'm never having to worry about, hey, did I apply the appropriate labels? What do I need to do? So that's how it works for a very manual perspective, but that it can also be set up to work automatically. Again, if they discover any content in your emails or communications that matches things like maybe patient ID numbers, credit card numbers, bank account numbers, anything that's considered personally identifiable information is already built into the system here and will be scanning those documents for you. Rafe, any more questions?
Yeah, we have another really good question here is, can each individual user set up their own My365 landing page by themselves, or do they need to have their IT department or My365 partner help set them up?
Great question. And you know what? That is totally determined by you. You as the company owner or the IT admin can decide whether or not your users can make their own dashboards and their own landing pages. It could be centrally controlled from one group in your company, maybe a couple of individuals or one individual. Your My365 partner, whomever you're working with, would of course do most of the heavy lifting up front. But you could also allow your users to create these pages and be just as flexible as your IT admin can. So it's really up to how you want to run your organization. Now, for those of you that are governed by stricter compliance regulations, you might want to consider not providing that as an option because you want to know where your documents are, you want to know how they function, things like that. But it is totally customizable. Perfect.
And one last question. Yeah, one more question here is, how is SharePoint data backed up?
How is it backed up? Good question. Well, because it's in SharePoint, it's automatically in Microsoft Server System, so it's backed up already by being in SharePoint. So if something goes down, if you lose hardware, you can instantly get back to it by either going to the web or just resetting up your device. So it's automatically stored in SharePoint indefinitely. You don't really have to worry about backups or anything like that. Now, if you wanted to have another backup solution, it's never a bad idea. We have a solution for that. We work with a company that does an amazing job at taking nightly snapshots of your entire 365 environment. That's called Quorum. We plug in with them, and they will take a nightly snapshot of your entire 365 system. That goes right down to your documents, your OneDrive, your SharePoints, your emails, your public folders, your calendar. Everything is backed up, and that's saved in an offsite location that Quorum runs, and that actually runs in technology with AWS. So we're using a combination of AWS to do your backup and Microsoft to do your day-to-day stuff. So a lot of people have asked us, jokingly, I would hope, well, what happens if Microsoft goes down and I lose all my data? And my response to something like that is usually something along the lines of, well, if Microsoft goes down, then that means something terrible has probably happened in the world, unlike we've ever seen before, because they run these things for organizations all the time. But we can now confidently say, hey, if Microsoft does go down, which it's not, but if it does, we can pull your data from another source, no problem. And that's just dependent on how much data you have, how we set that up. Definitely talk to your My365 partner to learn more about backup solutions. There's a ton of ways to skin this cat with backup, but we've tried to make it very simple for you here by using some out-of-box solutions. Any more questions before I move into the applications, Rafe?
Not at the moment. It's all you.
Awesome. So there are some apps that we've created right out of the box that I'm going to focus on. And I'm really going to hit on three that you see right here under My365 apps. So as we started building this solution, we worked with a lot of our customers, we interviewed them, we got some feedback, and it turns out that the number one thing that people struggled with was setting and managing their out of office. I guess that was a really challenging thing. And to be honest with you, I've had trouble with that too, because the interface for setting your out of office tends to be different on every device. It tends to be different on whatever version that you're using, and it's just really cumbersome to explain. But because we're in the cloud and we're doing things a lot easier now, let's show you how easy it is to do right off your landing site. So if you're going to be away, you're going to be out of office, let's just click on the out of office button right here. And this is accessible, again, right off your landing site. It's also available as a mobile app on your phone. So once this pulls up, it knows who I am. It single signed me in automatically. You can see that I'm right down here. Hey. Now what it's going to do is it's going to look at my calendar and look at recommended events. Okay, so it's going to find events on my calendar and basically say, hey, do you want to set an out of office for this? But I'm just going to go ahead and create a new calendar, create a new event. So let's say I'm planning to be out of the office from Monday the 20th until Thursday the 23rd. So I'm going to set those in here. I'm just going to leave the title default out of office and then hit next. So then it asks me, are you going to be out on business? Are you going on vacation, personal time? Let's say I'm going on a business trip, if we ever get back to those days, and hit next. And then it says to me, okay, what kind of access are you going to have to internet? This is basically asking me, are you going to be available to talk to people while you're away? Well, I'm going out on a business trip, so I'll say I'll have intermittent access to my email and my communications. I'll hit next. It then asks me to designate point of contacts while I'm away. So I'm going to designate Peter, who's my CEO, and I'm going to designate Rafe. From here, I'm going to say Peter's going to be regarding billing, and Rafe's going to be regarding My365 support. I'm going to hit next, and it automatically formats my messaging for me. So the AI has gone in here, it's created my messaging. I can decide whether or not I want to send the response outside my organization as well as inside. So those are both right here. And if I don't like what it's saying, I can customize it. I got the full power of Word Online built right into this editor, so I can make it say or do whatever I want. But it's a very nice way of having that done across your entire environment. Once I hit submit, this is all Microsoft server side. It's not dependent on any software. I don't need to have any apps installed to do this. So once I hit submit, it goes across my entire environment on every single device that I might use, and it'll automatically turn itself off at the appropriate time. So, very simple, basic example, but it's something we all have to do at some point. So I thought it would be nice to show here. The other piece is capturing meeting notes, okay? There's a lot of services inside of Microsoft, a lot of apps. Like you got OneNote, you got Planner, you got Word, you got Outlook. How do you use them all together to really make an effective way to capture notes and tasks? Well, that's called meeting notes. And right inside meeting notes, again, it's integrated directly on your landing site. Can also be an app you install on your device if you want it to be. What this is going to do is it's going to look at your calendar and it says, oh, this is my current meeting. So I'm going to click in here. I can see that it is a Teams meeting. It's a virtual meeting. And I can see who the organizer of it was. And that's true for all of these meetings here. I could just see who the organizer is, and I can see that it was created in Outlook. Now I'm going to hit start my meeting. I can see that there is 11 minutes and 20 seconds left in this meeting. Of course, now 18 seconds. I can see the people who accepted it. Now, of course, this is going to show me producers or presenters or members of my organization. But if you sent this to external users as a Teams meeting, then you would be able to see all of your attendees right here, whether they were inside or outside. From here, again, I've got the full power of Word Online. I can take all my notes as the meeting's going on. I can see all the details in one place of the original invite that you guys were seeing when you signed up for this. And I can add tasks right through here. So let's say during our discussion, a task came up and says, oh yeah, we need to reach out, oops, caps lock, reach out to the vendor. And let's say I need Peter to contact that vendor by next Wednesday. I'm going to assign it to Peter, but let's say I'm also going to put somebody else on it. I'm going to add Sharon to it, who is our COO, but she's not in our meeting, right? So I'm going to say, Sharon, I'm going to find her, add her right in here, and hit save. So now Peter and Sharon are going to get assigned that task. It's going to go to their email. And of course, it's going to be visible right on their landing site by clicking My Tasks. So nobody's ever guessing what they have to do. Now in here, I can keep adding more tasks. I can also scribble some notes. So let's say I'm using this on a tablet or a touchscreen device, and I'm on site with a client, and I'm talking about putting in, a new HVAC system or something like that. I can actually draw and sketch, and I'm not much of an artist, guys, but you get the idea. You can use your finger, you can use pen and touch, you can, change the thickness, the color, whatever you want, and hit save. That goes into your notes. You can also add camera screenshots. You can use the front and back cameras to take photos of things that you're working on. You can upload and attach other photos. So if you have images you want to attach, if you're using this on a tablet or a mobile device, it'll just pull up your file browser for whatever device you're using. You can attach relevant documents that have come up in the conversation. And you can even audio record your entire meeting as you use this. So if you were to start the audio recording, that would be available here. And as soon as you do, it starts ticking down. Your audio recording is there, and then you can stop when you're done. You can even choose to delete it, re-record, play, whatever you want. Now, when I go back to my main screen here, I can do attachments and view all the attachments that I've taken. I see that I have my sketch, which is this guy right down here, and I've got my audio file. So let's go back, and then I'm going to finish and save my notes. Now from here, I'm going to send an email to all my attendees, and I'm going to sync it with OneNote. So I'm going to add it into a OneNote notebook right here and hit OK. So it's going to be available to us right inside of our team notebook, which is right on our landing site. So nobody ever has to guess, hey, where did those notes go? How do I find those notes? Can you email me those notes? Nope, they're all right in here on Team Notebook. And then I'm going to hit export. Once I export, it's going to send us a nice email with all the stuff that I just created attached, and it's going to put all the notes right inside of my notebook. I can even schedule a follow-up meeting from here if I want. It's automatically going to insert the people that attended my meeting, and I can choose to add more people right from here. I can even use the Find Available Time option to use the scheduling assistant built directly into this system here. So that's how meetings works. Very easy from your landing site. Rafe, any questions that I should address before I go on to the learning?
No additional questions. Feel free to carry on.
Awesome. The other piece here, guys, because I know I'm throwing a lot at you right now, and if you're thinking about this like, oh my God, how are my people going to pick up on all this stuff? Well, hopefully you're seeing that this is a pre-filled out template. So the really cool thing about your site and your organization is that we're going to build it together, or you're going to build it with your My365 partner. So everything that's on here, as I said, is not set in stone. So really, the key players in your organization are going to be involved in designing the way you want your dashboard to look and feel. And that's really just asking, hey, what do you want on your site? So you'll know what's there already. But let's talk about Learn. And Learn comes included with all landing sites. What Learn is right here, this is content that's pulling directly from Microsoft proper, so it's constantly getting updated. So there are a couple of options. You could do the basic, get started with 6 simple steps. How do I sign in? How do I do this? Very basic stuff. You could also view recommended things. So as you use Office 365 more and more, this will learn your habits. So it'll show you training content that's more relevant to you as a user. But let's just go into Microsoft 365 training and see what's available. So this is our whole training catalog here that you have available. Again, funneled directly through Microsoft's network. And let's say you needed to know how to use Teams. So in Teams, which is our meeting option, we want to know how to, start chats, calls, and meetings. So from here, you can either watch the video, which will walk you through step by step every single thing you have to do to get this task accomplished. So it even shows you where to click, how to click on it. And again, this is always updated. So if they update the app, then the training content's going to update to match. If you don't want to watch, you can just read the transcript. You could also filter by activity. Okay, what about managing my meetings? How do I do that? So this is a great resource. But think about if someone in your organization is having trouble with something, you don't have to tell them, okay, open up the landing, go to this, click on that, and that's where you'll find the training. No, 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 no. All you need to do is click on copy link, send them this link however you'd like. It's probably going to be a Teams message, might be an Outlook email, and that will link them directly to this page right here so they can start learning and being more productive. This even works with applications like, I don't know, Excel. Say you wanted to become an expert in Excel, and say you wanted to make pivot tables. Say you've never done that before. Again, watch the video so you can see the step-by-step on how to work with pivot tables, or go down and read the transcript and read the steps that are explained in the video with illustrations. So really powerful learning tools that we've included right here for you. Also is your training events calendar. So if your company starts to host weekly meetings on trainings, how to jump in, again, you can open up your calendar, join that meeting, add it to your own calendar, and know when it's available. Perfect. All right. Any questions on that, Rafe, or can I use the last few minutes to do a very brief overview of Teams?
We do have one question. If you could talk a little bit about the benefits of having your local IT provider or, a My365 partner helping you build all of this versus doing it internally.
Sure. So a lot of that's really going to depend on you. Now, we have a national network of My365 partners. And of course, we're part of two major peer groups, one being the 20. So you have a lot of expertise backing you up. So with the peer group called the 20, we are a national network of managed service providers from all over the country that not only provide an end-to-end help desk solution, so your people can have 24/7 support and all this, because as you see, it is a lot of new content and new things being thrown at you. So it doesn't hurt to have an expert in place, especially if your organization is governed by some kind of compliance. The last thing you want to do, and as we've seen, people are getting things like Zoom bombs, hacks, all those types of things. You want to make sure that your system is set up right. That's not to say that you couldn't read these guides and figure out how to deploy it, but when you look at the cost benefit here of having a partner work with you, that's going to make a huge difference. And since your entire ecosystem is shifting into the cloud, you really want a team of experts to do that. And that's why we partnered with the 20. We're a part of the 20. The other partner peer group that we're a part of is called Robin Robbins. They're a national network of managed service providers, and we all work very closely together. So we're people that are getting trained up, know how to use this software from Microsoft Direct or from the My365 program that we run here out of NetLogic. So it really helps to have that partner in, because I'm showing you a very basic demo of what is possible right now. Just keep in mind that there are prerequisites to get to where we're looking at right now. It doesn't come out of the box like this. And that's the downside of using any major IT software, is that it comes pretty much empty. You have to decide what to do with it. You have to customize it, and you have to have some level of comfort to make that happen. So from a user perspective, it looks very simple, but there are a lot of things on the back end that will help you do to make sure that you're meeting your compliance and your needs and really future-proofing your organization from things like ransomware or other potential attacks. So there's a lot of things to consider. Hopefully that answered that question. Rafe, is there anything else pressing that we should hit on before I open up Teams?
Yeah, so actually we're at the top of the hour here, Dave. So we have about 3 minutes left. If you could talk a little bit about the My365 website, maybe where people can go and look at their local partners just to get some support if they need it.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and take you directly to our website, NetLogic, my365.com. Very simple, very easy to remember. When you open this up, it basically explains what the program is, how it works, some use cases and some things you would get. Demonstrations, so it's going to explain everything that we've talked about here today. It's going to talk about our landing site, the learning portal, the security solutions that we put in, give you a little FAQ, frequently asked questions, and we frequently post new content and things we think that are relevant to you to see. Also, definitely highlighting our partnerships down the bottom so you can learn more about the 20 that I talked about today. You can also learn more about Robin Robbins, and we're also a member of the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners. We work heavily with them. Very happy to be a part of that. So learn about our partnerships and who we are. And of course, if you liked what you see here, go ahead and give us a like on Facebook to tell your friends. Also, if you're in here, you could also sign up for an account right on our website. That gives you access, and with this, you can log in with your Google ID, your Facebook ID, or use your email. And this gives you access to a lot of the training that I was showing you in here. A little bit more basic than you get internally at your company, but it gives you an idea of something to do here. Also right here is the partner locator. This is where you guys are going to want to look. So feel free to just go in here and search by your location or address. But as you can see, we have partners all over the country that are ready to help and deploy these things, new partners being added all the time. So chances are there's somebody in your neighborhood that can help out. Of course, if you're on this call, you were probably referred by an existing partner. So please do the feedback survey at the end. We're going to send out a feedback survey that you can take. You can either provide your information if you're interested in knowing more. Of course, we ran out of time today and I don't want to hold anyone up too much, but there's a lot to go over here. So we would love to give you a more personalized demo for your organization, and feel free to bring in whoever you'd like that are decision makers or even key players in your org when we do that demo with you and your local partner. So here's where you would find that information. You can click directly on them. So in Montana here, for example, Wolfguard IT, you can pull them up, go right to their website, find out who they are, what they do. And that's true for all of our partners here. So a great way to find these resources and how to work with us and get started. Perfect. Well, Rave, we are at 5 o'clock, and I do apologize. I was not able to get into the Teams portion of it, but we did do a webinar on that a couple of weeks ago, so hopefully some of you have seen that. This will be available and recorded. So if you want, go ahead and rewatch this, share with your team members. Again, I'll be sending out that feedback survey. Please do take just a few moments to fill that out. Let us know how we did, what else you'd like to see. And we'll also be starting a regular webinar series on how to actually use these tools for our members. So for those of you that are using the platform, we're going to be doing a lot more group trainings, and they won't be live seminars like this. They'll actually be instances where you can speak up, ask questions, and get involved with the discussion. But thank you so much for your time. Rafe, unless there's anything else you see that we should hit on, we're out of time.
Nope, I don't see any new questions that have come in recently. So thank you all for joining us, and look forward to your feedback and any type of information you can give us to have for the next call. We are happy to look at it and make sure we hit on it then.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week, and please stay safe. Thanks so much.